World Financial Group offers entrepreneurs from all backgrounds the opportunity to start their own business on a level playing field. Dr. Yana Woodhouse, receiving the WCM Wall Street Pioneer Award by the United Black Wall Street of America, Inc., is one of those entrepreneurs.
I see WFG and TFA as a place where African Americans with an entrepreneurial mindset can flourish. And the bonus, we help families and serve the communities across the country.
To learn more about us, go to worldfinancialgroup.com.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.
Hello, and welcome once again to another fantastic Tuesday. My name is Tyrone Glover, and I am the Dress Down CEO of Leverage Credit Recovery. Welcome to the show, and thank you as always for giving me your Tuesday afternoon. Now it's actually evening, and giving us an opportunity to share with you some important new news, important new facts about credit, what you need to be doing in 2024 to find yourself obviously ahead of the game, being able to capitalize off the new credit laws, being able to capitalize off the past mistakes, being able to capitalize off the valuable information that we are delivering on a regular basis. Thank you. Welcome. And as we get ready to get started, as always, I would love for you to grab that device and send out a couple of invites. Tell people, you know what, that guy's back on again. He's sharing that information. Tune in. Before we get started, I want to give a shout out to, obviously, Soul City Network for making this possible. Soul City Network is a fantastic platform, and I believe you all should be tuning in. Great content, great information from a variety of wonderful, stellar individuals who have a skill set in their area of expertise, who deliver it every single week. Soul City Network is on Verizon TV. We are on Verizon, Comcast, Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV. We are out there delivering upon the expectations that this wonderful network has set out for us, and that's to give and make sure that our people have what they need to be able to move through the challenging circumstances that we have been confronted with. It's not only going to get harder, folks. It's only going to get harder, and you're going to need the help of the experts. And being an expert in this realm of credit, I am so grateful and pleased to be a part of this wonderful network. Also want to give a shout out to the creator, because without him, none of this would be possible. None of this. But as I always do, I want you to grab that device, and I want you to go to your favorite social media site, and I want you to send out some invites. Come on, do me that for me. As we go through the program today, and as we always go through the programs, what I also like for you to do is send some questions. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. Send us some questions. I know you got them. So send them to us. What we're going to be talking about today is a near and dear topic to my soul, and I hope it is a near and dear topic to your soul. When does debt fall off your credit report? Now, I know you're probably wondering, wow, credit report, debt's on there? Yes, there's debt on your credit report. It's called a charge-off. And sometimes the charge-off ends up staying on your credit report. But we need to know, when does negative things fall off your credit report? And that's what we're going to be addressing today. Making sure that you understand how to navigate through. I'm going to share with you also my link tree, and I'm also going to share with you something that just popped over came through an email about the CFPB. If you don't know the CFPB, they're called the Consumer Financial Protections Bureau, and it's related to student loans. And I think I need to do a show on that because there's some great information that just popped up, and it's referencing an April timeframe that those of you who have student loans, you should be looking into this. Because even though the Biden administration was unsuccessful in the courts to get the student loans removed from individuals, or the debt removed, not necessarily the negative information, but we want not just the debt, we want the negative information equally removed. Right? So, but there's some great news, and I'll be sharing that as we move through the program. But again, thank you everybody for giving me the afternoon. Thank you for giving me the time. And I look forward to even more of these types of understanding. But let's go ahead and roll that tape. All right, so the presentation today is how does debt fall off your credit report? Just got to make sure I'm all set up. There we go. All right, so who am I, first and foremost? Welcome to our presentation about the CEO, Tyrone Glover. Hello, my name is Tyrone Glover, and I am the creator, founder, and CEO of Leverage Credit Recovery. I've had the pleasure of assisting hundreds, if not thousands, of consumers over the past 20 years resolve credit-related issues and concerns. And it's been a beautiful journey. Trust me when I tell you, it's been something truly remarkable and amazing to be able to help individuals. As an educator, I've had the unique opportunity to educate all levels of our society, from the corporate boardroom to the classroom. I possess skills, knowledge, and abilities which have made me a true asset and authority in this space related to personal and business credit. Disciplined, committed, highly educated veteran of the United States Army and former corporate executive by way of European studies. I'm an enthusiast, an activist, an advocate for our most vulnerable, our students, our seniors, those of us who reside in that working poor class, the ever-eroding middle class. This category that it just drives me completely insane every single time that I have to say it, but the full-time working homeless. These are our most vulnerable, who have been abused, deceived, and misinformed by all forms of predatory lending. The courts and credit reporting agencies, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. I had a huge misunderstanding with a lawyer. Again, huge. He was trying to tell me about charge-offs and how the court doesn't look at it like that. And because, again, the narrative is always leaning towards those who are abusing other individuals. And it's now time for us to change the narrative. I sent an individual just recently to court, prepared her so good. And this was a senior. I prepared her so good. She went to court, slayed two lawyers, slayed them, all because she was well prepared. So if you are facing any type of credit situation that has you going to court, you need to reach out. Even prior to, if you're unsure about some of these circumstances, you need to reach out. Don't have your funds or resources taken away and then have to go back and fight to get them back. But either way, we're going to win. You're going to win. Why are you going to win? Because we or you don't speak the language that I speak when it comes to understanding credit. And my job is to educate you, coach you, so you can go into these courthouses and slay it like you should. 9 out of 10 times. Why am I saying 9 out of 10? Because 9 out of 10 times, these law firms and these collection agencies and these lawyers are buying debt, hoping that you don't show up because they know you're scared. They know you're intimidated. So they're hoping you don't show up and you get saddled with a garnishment. With the help of Leverage Credit Recovery, with the help of Tyrone Glover, I'm going to be able to help you navigate this and walk away with, again, mind you, with this dismissed with prejudice. That means it can never be brought back again. The client wrote me and told me that it was the most enjoyable time that she's ever had in the courthouse because of the fact that she was fully prepared. And that's what we do here at Leverage Credit Recovery. So we can, we must, we will improve the financial lives of the working poor and the ever-eroding middle class, and the category, as I keep saying it disturbs me every single time that I have to say it, the full-time working homeless. That's those who do not have a residence. do not have a physical residence that they can call their own. Some of them are living in cars. Some of them are living in hotels. Some of them are living in some of the most horrible conditions because of the fact that New York State, California, all these coastal cities, their rents are, again, as that individual said, too damn high. I'm sorry. Sometimes we use adult language on this program. I know we're at PG, but sometimes one of those slips out every now and then. All right. But again, my name is Tyrone, and I'm here to make sure you know, you have to know. The more you know, the more you grow. So the table of content, today we're going to be talking about, so let's just jump right into it. Number one, how long does debt stay on your credit report? How long a collection stays on your credit report depends on the type of loan you have. Derogatory items may stay on your credit report for 7 to 10 years or more, according to the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Traditionally, it's 7 years. There are some items that can stay on for 10 years, and there are some items that could stay on a little bit longer than that, but primarily it's 7 years. And if you know how to negotiate them off prior to the 7 years, you just have to have the skill set. You need to know these laws because there are 5 credit protection acts that are there to protect you. And my job is to make sure that you know all 5 of them. And then you, again, they don't believe that we as consumers are savvy enough, are smart enough, are wise enough. So they're going to constantly keep playing us. They think that we're going to be guilted into signing another, which too many of us have, signing under a contractual obligation to something that you technically do not have to pay. I'm going to say it again. You do not have to pay because the information that you're being given is not valid. And this is the big key to all of this. It has to be validated. And again, validation doesn't necessarily mean that they can give you some old information. It has to be the most up-to-date information. And validation, that's what that means. Up-to-date, as current as possible. All right? So again, even though, again, you have said 7 to 10 years or more, there's still that law, Fair Credit Reporting Act, along with others, consumer protection that protect you as well. Do you still have to pay a debt that falls off your credit report? Your debt isn't simply erased once it falls off your credit report, but you're liable for owing. It may vary if the debt is past the statute of limitations. Now, I'm going to add a little bit more to that, okay? Statute of limitations in most states, again, every state has their statute of limitations, so just type in your Google browser, Safari, or wherever you get your searches, Internet Explorer, wherever. Type in statute of limitation for your particular state, and it will tell you about debt. And it will give you a list of all kinds of things that fall under that statute. But when it comes to debt, all right, debt is a commodity. It goes up in value and it goes down in value. All right. And individual companies, not individuals, but individual companies who have deep pockets, they're buying debt. They're buying debt at 4 cents on the dollar. 4 cents. Now, think about that for a second. If somebody's buying your debt at 4 cents, how is it that you owe the full amount? Debt has to have reduced itself. That's why they have this thing called the bad debt deduction. And this is where the courts are oblivious. This is where the courts refuse to do what they're supposed to do, which is look into all aspects of the law to make sure that there isn't no malfeasance going on. And let me tell you, be firsthand to tell you, there's a ton of malfeasance going on. A ton of malfeasance. And we have to put a stop to that, because if we don't put a stop to this, individuals are still going to be taken advantage of. This is why I'm making this so an issue, that we all understand the things that we're going to have to do to prevent this from happening. Okay? It's really, again, too much of it is going on. Too much of it. If you have never paid off the debt and the collector is within the statute of limitations, you're still liable for it. True to some degree. All right, true to some degree. You're still liable for that debt, but it's now reduced because the original creditor has taken now the tax deduction that comes with the loss of that debt, the worthlessness of that debt. Okay, worthlessness. And this is where the law and business sometimes times gets a little bit confused. Not saying that a judge is confused, because I said that in court one day and the judge looked at me like, oh, I was just a piece of dirt. I was the smallest thing on the face of the planet. Oh, I'm a judge. I don't get confused. Oh, yes, you do. You get confused, as we all do as human beings. You get confused. But I didn't go back and forth with her. I just let her have her day and have her way because it's her courtroom. But I definitely made myself clear that what she was uttering, or what the other individual was uttering, was not true, was not factual. All right? It has to be factual in law. It has to be factual in, well, it has to be factual in law. Period. Bottom line. Has to be factual in law. And if it's not factual in law, again, got to dispute it. Don't like the word dispute, but we have to challenge it, because that word disputes means it's something that you did not do. And this is where we always get tied up into these types of understandings. All right. The creditor can call and send letters, sue you, and get a court order to garnish your wages. But prior to all of that, you saw where it said can call you, send you letters. So if you start getting calls, you start getting a letter, you need to answer your phone. Stop running from your phone. Answer the phone. Stop running from the mailbox. Go and get those letters. Open them up. Look at them. And if you are still shocked and amazed and surprised, or whatever the case may be, reach out. That's where we can help you make sure that you're not being taken advantage of. But if you don't know, you're never going to do anything. Now that you know, get in front of it. Take care of what you need. All right? The lawyers are getting richer. The debt collection companies are getting richer. And how are they getting richer? Because of the fact that we as the consumers, we're not doing our part. And that's all we need to do is our part. I know you see me putting up my hand, and I got this really cool camera, and it moves around, and it's really an awesome camera when I'm doing my other shows where I need to be walking around. So my apologies if you see my hand pop up every so often. All right? Let's keep it moving. This is so great. Number 3, how long do collections stay on your credit report? If a creditor's information regarding an account delinquent is valid, the collection record will exist for 7 years, starting from the date it was filed. All right, so it's really important to understand, when did this go into collections? Looking at and understanding, was it in collections prior to it being put on your credit report? Is there some time frame that you might be able to determine that this was put on there prior to anything? If yes, by all means, what you want to do is you want to reach out to whomever may own that debt. As I stated, if you start getting phone calls, state your name with I am a individual that they may be looking for. So if I got a phone call stating, hey, we're looking for Tyrone Glover, and the individual on the opposite end doesn't disclose that this is a debt collection company, they may say that something like that, but you want to know what's the name of the company. Oh, we are a debt collection company calling on behalf of, that behalf of should be another huge red flag, letting you know that this is not the original creditor. This is probably someone who, again, bought the debt at 4 cents on the dollar. So they're believing that you as the individual may not know what's going on. All right? So don't get caught up. You get that phone call, you hear what I have just said. Your job is to say, I am a Tyrone Glover, or I am a so-and-so, or I am a person of interest. All right? Don't say that you are the individual, because guess what? These calls are being recorded for quality assurance and training purposes. You're not doing anything that's going to compromise anything. What you're doing is you're not giving up too much of your private information, because you are under certain guidelines of the law. You're protected. All right. Your information and your identity is protected, because there's a lot of schemers out there. There's a lot of individuals and companies doing some stuff that, according to what I understand, are borderline criminal, if not criminal. All right. So we got to be careful. We got to be informed. And if we're not careful or informed, we need to find someone who is, that can help us, making sure that we do not find ourselves in these situations that we don't necessarily need to be in. We're going to own up to what we did. No question about it. And that owning up is roughly about 10%. That's, yes, I said it, 10%, because 90% of the majority of what's on your credit report is on there due to malfeasance of Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, especially if it's negative. especially if it's negative. Should I say it one more time? Especially if it's negative. And that negative information has permeated the African American community. It's permeated the Hispanic community. It's permeated those areas that I already mentioned previously too, which is the working poor, the ever eroding middle class, and those who again, category full-time working homeless. I want you to just hold on to that for a minute. Full-time working homeless. That means you got a job. That means you are working. That means you are providing. But unfortunately, due to the cost of living, your wages has stayed stagnant and you are unable to provide the types of residence that all of us are entitled to. And it's shameful. The account negative, okay, so here's how it typically works. When a creditor considers an account negative, the account may be handed over to an internal collection agency. Let me tell you something about those internal collection agencies. The businesses that have given you that loan, they don't really want to deal with trying to collect on it, because if they wanted to collect on it, they would have restructured a brand new understanding with you. They would have said, hey, you know what? We're going to lower the interest rates. We're going to help you get out of whatever situation that you may find yourself. But business is about business. And trust me when I tell you, I understand it and I get it. But business of finance should be a bit more understanding. They're not, because they're greedy. They're selfish. They do not care about the individuals that they themselves have put in harm's way. All right? Do not. Perfect example, student loans. Need I say more? Student loans. Lied to students for decades, telling them, oh, you're going to stay around 3%, 3.25%, never going to go higher. Sold that off to Navient, and Navient again went in 12%, 18%, some crazy numbers. That's why Navient also was sued by the CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. There's so many lawsuits in regards to student loans that it's shameful that the Supreme Court would not say, bye, see you later. All that does is put money right back into the economy. It doesn't make anybody else feel lesser than, or somebody else is now paying for somebody else's student loan debt. That's not how it works. That's just like the same situation when it comes to, oh, we don't want to support this group or that group. Why are we giving so much aid to this country or that country when they're in a skirmish or some type of a confrontation with another country? You do understand that the United States is a business, and 90% of what we are giving when we give aid, that's not free stuff. They have to pay us back. So we get back 90%. But this is what happens when you remove civics out of the K through 12 preparatory stage. This is what happens when you remove financial literacy and financial intelligence out of the K through 12 preparatory stage. I was teaching somebody last week, a college student, and the things that I was coaching and teaching this individual on, she told me she has never learned in college. Boom, head blew up, exploded. By the way, this is not my original head. The first one is gone. Just kidding. But again, you get my point. Pretty sad to understand that. Pretty sad to realize that we as a nation have turned our back on 60 to 70% of the society, all because of the fact that we just don't care. Now, I don't say nothing negative about government, because government is there to do the right thing. It's governance of the individuals that we have elected who will not do the right thing. No matter what we as individuals do, they will not do what they're supposed to do. Number one reason why they won't is because the majority of them are invested. Oh, yes, they are. They are invested. And when you're invested, you're never going to be able to hold individuals accountable for the work that they're supposed to be doing for the people. Anytime I got congressional leaders on MSNBC or Fox News or all the other variety of channels talking this crazy stuff, I'm looking at them like, wow, that's the way elected officials get to talk to people? That's a little bit wild. But this is what happens when the paradigm is shifted, when the people who put the individuals in play now are being played by the individuals that they put in political office. Shameful. All right, so that's one of the main reasons why, again, it's challenging for regulators to do their part, so we, the consumer, always suffers. All right, so the account debt is sometimes sold to an outside debt collection agency. And I love the fact that they said sometimes. Oh, yeah, sometimes sold. It's sold primarily all the time. Because as I said, if you are an institution and you're an institution where you have investors, those investors are not going to invest in you if you got a mountain full of debt. They're not going to do that. That's number one rule to invest in is don't invest in a company that's carrying too much debt. So, of course, those companies are going to clear up those books as they do every single year. As the interest rates go up and down, they make sure that them books is ready for if they have to go out and borrow again. So what makes you think that the consumer shouldn't be doing the exact same thing? It's sold all the time, and it's sold at pennies. New debt is sold at 9 cents, then it reduces itself down to about 7 cents, reduces itself down to about 5 cents, but the lowest it possibly goes could be about 1 to 2 cents. Yes, 1 to 2 cents on every dollar. That's a business that you want to be in, especially if you can guilt someone into thinking that they still owe this debt, when in all actuality, as I said, I don't care what any of these legal experts say. They haven't done their homework, and the majority of them are just general legal practitioners. They know a little bit, but they don't know enough about the area of expertise or specialty that I know. Because if they did, guess what? They would probably be helping more consumers instead of just capitalizing off the fact that they can charge them up to $1,700 an hour to represent them. Greed has run rampant through this country. And I believe Gordon Gekko from Wall Street said greed is good. No, greed is disturbing. It's very much disturbing. And it needs to come to an immediate halt, or more individuals are going to find themselves dealing with circumstances that they themselves should not be in. All because of a little hiccup, all because of a little mistake. And you're going to be in purgatory, financial purgatory, for the rest of your days. Absolutely not. Not as long as I got breath in my body, not as long as I have the ability to be on a network like Soul City and be able to get this information out there into the world. Not as long as I can do what I need to do. You're not going to be there. And we're going to do everything that we must to make sure that we can secure your financial stability. You got to want it more than us. You got to want it more than those who are presenting it to you. And if you do, trust me when I tell you, we will be there. All right, so here's some of those understandings about here's how long you can expect derogatory marks to stay on your credit report. All right, so hard inquiries, 2 years. All right, so if you are out there inquiring, it could again, it all depends on, did you do the inquiry? If you didn't, there are 2 kinds of inquiries. There's a soft inquiry, which allows for you to look at your credit report on yourself. That's considered a soft inquiry. Or if you're in the market of buying a car or buying a home or getting a loan product, there's a thing called soft inquiries where it does not impact your credit report. Then there are those which you can see here, which is a hard inquiry. That will impact your credit report, and it can stay on your report for up to 2 years. And this is where the most important piece of this entire thing is that word right there, can. Can is not a definitive word. When you are someone like myself who understands the meaning of words, a definitive word is a must. All right, it must. There's nothing you can do because it must stay there. A can is not. Can stay there. It can come off. It's completely up to you. All right. So that's what's critical to understand. It can stay on your report. So that's up to you to negotiate it off. Money owed to or granted by the government. All right, the government's will come after you too if you've done some stuff where they need to take you to court. But if you got a solid argument, based off facts, you can go into court and you can slay that too. Late payment, 7 years. Foreclosure, 7 years. Short sale, 7 years. Collection account, 7 years. Now here's where it gets a little bit more challenging. Your Chapter 13, 7 years, and there's other chapters as well that can also stay a little bit longer. A judgment, 7 years, or until the statute of limitation expires, whichever is longer. All right. Unpaid taxes indefinitely or 7 years from the last date paid. But all of this is business transactions which are negotiable. If you know how to negotiate, you can negotiate yourself a fantastic, I hate to say deal, but an arrangement, a contractual obligation that allows for you to meet that obligation without harming you further. That's what these things should be all about. But unfortunately, the greed, the gouging, as we already know when it comes to what's going on in the supermarkets. They just talked about it, and I can't wait to do a show referencing how supermarkets and all of these places where we buy our groceries are gouging, stealing from the very individuals that make them rich. And all because of inflation, they're getting away with it. Because we don't have regulators, we don't have the manpower in this country to go out and scan, as I did when I worked for a variety of different grocery stores, to make sure that those prices were in line with, number one, with what the company is saying. But we know that individuals can go in that back office, at least I know, they can go in that back office, hit a couple of keys, they get a label, they go right out there on that floor, slap that label on there, and guess what? The consumer doesn't know any different. They just went around scared and wondering how come the government's not protecting my pay. You got to get smarter, folks. Got to. And that's what these shows are all about. All right. So you got judgments, you got unpaid taxes, unpaid student loans indefinitely. But as I told you, student loans have been the biggest money grab for so many of these debt collection companies. The biggest money grab. This is the great grift. All right. The great grift. Companies, individuals, millionaires, billionaires grifting. And it is really sad to say that about this country that I so dearly love and serve, that we're taking advantage of the most vulnerable individuals, grifting, all because they don't know. Well, now, folks, you now know. And I would hope now that you know, because as always, when you know better, what are you supposed to do? Do better. All right. So again, this is your credit score pyramid. Eat junk food sparingly. Pay off a little debt more, pay off a little more of your debt every month. All right. Put these things into practice. Keep balances low, less than 30%. It's not that hard to do. I can walk you through how to do that. Equally allocate your credit to certain understandings. Create a budget. Use the proper transaction method, which is credit. I know we like to use our debit and we like to use our cash, but use the proper transaction method. And make timely payments. If you're bringing down that utilization, you have to wait a couple of days, 5 to 7 business days. And you have to be on that line calling them up and saying, hey, why hasn't this reported? Because what we have found out, and what's really creating the most harm for consumers, is that the fact that these credit reporting agencies are not reporting in the manner in which they should, which is protecting us, the consumer. They're waiting up to 28 days later. That's shameful. Because they know, as I said, the 60 to 70% of the individuals that I've just talked about, these are the ones who need to use their product almost immediately as they pay it. But our job is to make them financially aware so that they will not have to run back out to use that product as soon as they made that payment. That they can wait that 5 to 7 business days. After they've waited that 5 to 7 business days, then they're on the line, on the phone, calling the creditors saying, hey, you haven't reported. They're now in violation. You can sue them. But if you don't know these things, they get away with bloody murder. All right, so payment due. Do I still have to pay a debt that falls off my credit report? If you never paid off the debt, but it is past the statute of limitations, the debt is now considered time barred. All right. How you act on a time barred debt that falls off your credit report is your choice, according to the FTC, which is the Federal Trade Commission. You can do one of the following: pay nothing, pay part of the debt, pay the total of outstanding debt. No, pays nothing, pay part of the debt, or pay the total outstanding balance. Regardless of which option you choose, talk to an attorney about the best path forward before contacting a debt collector. I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of these attorneys are the debt collectors. Oh, yeah, sad to say. Sad to say. Yes, a lot of attorneys have now, because they have deep pockets, have gotten into that business. Gotten into the business of, again, they're settling. You got me? Settling. An attorney's going to go in. They're not going to argue for you. They're going to settle for you. You can settle yourself. You just have to know what they know. And a lot of times, I told you, we know more than what they know because these are general practitioners. They're doing it because they have the title lawyer. And anytime a debt collection company or a law firm or another law firm gets another letter from a law firm, they're going to sit down and they're going to talk law. They're going to talk, how can we settle this? How can we navigate through this without having to go into a courtroom so that it becomes public record? That's why the number one reason why a company doesn't want to negotiate with you when it gets this far. They're ready to write it off their books, which they do. And they don't write it off one at a time. No, they write it off in millions, if not billions of dollars. All right. So depending on your state, debt collectors might be allowed to call you and try to collect on a time-barred debt. However, creditors and debt collectors cannot sue you or threaten a lawsuit to collect on the debt that's outside the statute of limitations. But if you get in front of all of these situations, guess what? You'll never have to deal with any of what I'm mentioning right now. You'll never have to deal with none of it. It will be a thing of the past because you have now become a wise, savvy, smart, intelligent consumer. If you're looking to put your debt behind you and move on with a clean slate, a surefire way to pay what you owe, or at least an agreed upon part of what you owe. Before making the phone call, make sure you know these things, that the debt is legally yours. A lot of times when you get a phone call, that's a fishing expedition. They don't know if you're the right person. They're fishing. So they're going to do whatever they need to do to trick you into agreeing upon something that you yourself probably don't even know it's yours. But again, you got a loan. You may have gotten a car. You may have gotten a credit card. Yeah, you're not, oh, yeah, I did get that. So, yeah, I feel guilty. Guess what? You shouldn't. Because you didn't live up to your obligation, yes, you should in that regard. But because we know how the process works in 90% of the time, 10%, as I said, you own up to because, yes, it didn't go in the manner because you lost a job. You lost a spouse. Your income has never increased due to wage stagnation. Cost of living has gone up tremendously, but yet your level of income has stayed where it has been. When you get a 2% raise, the cost of living goes up 5%, so you're still down 3%. But yet they keep running around here talking about, oh, well, the working poor, their income has gone up. Income goes up, cost of living goes up. What doesn't really go up? Your income. Okay, you can keep balancing it out or trying to figure out some tricky voodoo math. Still is the same. 2 plus 5, or excuse me, 2 minus 5 is 3. That means you're still down 3. It's not that hard. Simple math. But this is the part that I need to make sure that we are all fully versed on. All right, so you have those options. What you can realistically afford to pay monthly or a lump sum. If you do happen to find yourself in this situation where the debt is still with the original creditor, in the original creditor's hand, the original creditor is calling and reaching out to you. This is prior to it being charged off. This is prior to it making it to a law firm. Because as I stated, and I'm going to constantly keep saying it, the original creditor does not want to be in the business of collecting debt that has now gone past 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days. They do not want to be in the business of that. They will write that off because it's called a bad debt deduction, and that is their protection. And they'll use it every single time. This is what you as a consumer needs to know. All right. If you negotiate a pay for less than the full amount, get the payment agreement in writing from the creditor before you send any payment. Again, you're locking yourself into a contractual obligation. So definitely, for sure, you want to make sure that whatever it is that you're locking yourself into, that it is in writing. And then you're going to be held accountable just like you should hold them accountable. All right. How long does collection stay on your credit report? If a creditor's information regarding an account delinquent is valid, the collections records will exist for 7 years starting from the date it was filed. Here's how this typically works. When a creditor considers an account negative, the account may be held over to maybe handed over to an internal collection department. We already talked about that. For the most part, they're not doing that any longer. All right. 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. When they charge that item off, that means that their hands are wiped clean. They do not want to negotiate with you any longer. They always tell you if you get something in the mail or you reach out after an item has gone that far, they tell you, oh, it's at our collections company or it's at our internal, which you really very rarely will hear that word. Or we got to connect you with our debt department, or however the adjective that they may be using. Most of the time, that's an outside organization. So they'll give you another number. Very rarely do they transfer you over to an internal. As I told you, they don't want to deal with that. So guess what? They don't have those departments any longer. Very, 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 very rare. That's not their job. Their job is to make money, not to lose money. The account debt is sometimes sold to an outside collection agency. This often happens when, as I said, when you are about 6 months behind on your payment. It's not even 6 months now, 30 days. 30 days. You are dealing with algorithms and you are dealing with AI. Believe me when I tell you, those algorithms have been set up not to help you. Do you think that's what they're doing? They're setting up their algorithms to make sure that you, the consumer, is going to be protected? Absolutely not. They're setting up their algorithms to make sure that that bottom line keeps getting fatter and fatter and fatter and fatter. And the law, unfortunately, because we don't know it in the manner in which we should, is literally helping them. All right. Around 180 days after the original due date of the payment, the collector might sell the debt. There's no might in that. The collector will sell that debt to a collection agency. Now, this is according to Sean Fox, CO, president of the Freedom Debt Relief. Now, Sean and I have no understanding together. We do not have any connection, but it was nice to be able to reference someone, and I hope he's listening, and I hope others who might be listening as well, the Freedom Debt Relief, reach out to us, because we would love to have a little sit down with you to clarify whether or not the information that you have provided is actually accurate. But I can tell you based off of my experience, sorry guys, you need an update. All right, this step indicates that the creditor has decided to give up on getting payment on its own. Selling to collection agencies is a way to minimize the creditor's loss. But let me ask you this. If the United States government says you're entitled to have a business, and clearly when you make a profit, the government wants that bread. They want that money. They want you to pay taxes on that profit. But when you lose money, you think the government wants to see your business go under? No. So guess what the government's going to do? They're going to almost give you back 99% of that debt. 99% of that debt they're going to give you back. So that means there's only 1% left. And shouldn't you, as a consumer, if the government says, okay, 99% of that debt is going to be given back to the company who we got the loan from or that financial product from, shouldn't you only be beholden to that 1%? You would think so. Because how is it that they can get the money back from the government and then still go after you for the exact same amount that they just received back? So if anybody, you should owe the federal government, but the federal government's not going to come after you because the federal government is doing what the federal government does. Writing laws, make sure that they're enforcing those laws. That's what the government does. All right. At that point, you will start to hear from a debt collector who now has the right to collect the payment, who now has the right because they did what? They purchased that debt. But here's the caveat. Even though they purchased the debt, they don't know who you are. They have no clue. That's why they have to reach out by letters. That's why they have to reach out by phone calls to try to fish around, because there is something called the Privacy Act that protects your information. The original creditor may be able to sell all that debt in bulk, but guess what they're not able to do? They're not able to sell your private information. So the debt collector is buying it in bulk and they have no clue who you are. That's called change of custody. Just like when you sell a vehicle. When you sell a car, there's something called a pink slip. When you sell a debt, there's something equally called that pink slip, change of custody. And until that has been established and the original creditor has now collected, how do you believe that you owe someone that you've never been in a contractual relationship with? Need I say more? I told you we are good, folks. We are good. Do we got any questions yet? Anybody drop a question for us in the chat or on YouTube? Yeah, by all means, please make sure if you have a question. We're about 15 minutes from wrapping this up. But if you got a question prior to this ending, by all means, drop us a hot one. Or again, send it out in a email. Send it out per the Twitter, or excuse me, not Twitter, but for the social media pages that we have available. Send us those questions because I know you have them. All right. Unsecured debt like credit cards and personal loans are generally sent to a collection agency and can be handled internally. But as I stated, businesses are not in the business for collections. Businesses are in the business for making a profit. And collections takes away from that making a profit. So they're going to get rid of that debt, and they're doing it on the most in the most expeditious way possible. 30 days. 30 days. I had a friend of mine tell me that his car payment was just about due or just about up. 2 or 3 more months. He gets a letter from the most horrible, the most disgusting, the most, I believe, in my opinion, criminal financial institution known to man, which is Wells Fargo. Yeah, I wish the CEO, the CFO, the COO, or whoever, shareholders, board members, reach out to me and I'll tell you to your face. But you'll never do it because you know that you guys are the worst bank ever, financial institution ever, Wells Fargo. All right, so as I said, unsecured debt like credit cards, personal loans are generally sent to collections agencies or can be handled internally. If you fail to pay a secured debt like an auto loan or a mortgage, foreclosure or repossession are the most common approaches for creditors to begin regaining loss. But again, another one of those tricky type of voodoo type of don't believe your lying eyes. So you get a car, and for whatever reason, you cannot keep up with those payments. So that car gets repossessed. The lender or the original creditor is going to repossess that vehicle. They're going to take it and send it to auction. Auction is going to sell it clearly for much lower. But again, they're still selling it, and you never really truly know what the full amount was. And this is where it gets tricky. If they tell you they sold it for $5,000 and it's a $40,000 car, you think they're going to take that much of a loss? Absolutely not. I know auctions, how they operate. Okay, again, yes, they're going to sell it for far less, but they're not going to sell a $40,000 car for $5,000 and try to collect from you. Shenanigans are going on in this whole swapping, buying, and selling of debt. And you, the consumer, because you are not fully versed on what transpires, you're being set up for failure. Further failure. It's really important to understand these things. And once you do, you're going to be able to make the necessary adjustments. All right, so if a creditor information about a collection is inaccurate, a dispute can be filed against the claim. And I don't like to say disputes because a dispute basically means I didn't do it. So you're already setting yourself up for failure just by responding to a word that you technically should know more about. You want to challenge the validity of any type of collections activity. Challenge the validity. Understand those words. I gave you 2 important pieces to take away today. One, when that phone call rings and you have to answer it, make sure you say, I am a individual that you may be seeking. And when it comes to this, understanding that again, if a creditor's information or information about a collections is inaccurate, you have the right to challenge. Think about this. When we as individuals who were enslaved were emancipated, you know, they wrote into that very same text that if you had a criminal record, that you would still be a slave. Guess what they did? As soon as they emancipated individuals, you looked at a white person, went to jail. You spit on the ground, went to jail. You did anything remotely close. You killed a fly, going to jail. That was my pet fly. I can't believe you killed my pet fly. Jail, because they still wanted to capitalize off that free labor. Same thing here. They want to capitalize off the vulnerable individuals who know nothing about the contract relationships that they themselves get into. That's why they created me. That's why I am the most important person at this particular time frame in our history to help African Americans, to help Hispanics, to help Black males, to help Black females, to help all ethnic groups who might be dealing with one of those categories that I just mentioned. Are you a working poor? Are you part of the ever-eroding middle class? Are you one of those who are living in circumstances that do not allow for you to have a full-time residence, but yet you have a full-time job? You need to be calling Tyrone. You need to be picking up that phone and sending out an email. You need to be finding some way to get in touch with me so that I can help you navigate and find yourself on the better end of your credit concerns. All right, so filing a dispute may require extensive evidence and even an investigation to remove any disingenuous reporting. All right, disingenuous. Love that word, because there's a lot of disingenuous reporting going on out there. So for several years now, the major credit reporting agencies have treated medical debt owed directly to providers slightly different than other types of debt. Some of the credit agencies will even ignore medical collections account that is less than 6 months old. This is because they do not necessarily view medical debt as an indicator of credit risk, because medical debt takes a lengthy process to go through, and there are so many other elements to that. And that's going to be a later show for a later time frame where we're going to dive deep into that medical debt. In addition, the grace period given consumers time to resolve disputes with medical providers or insurance companies, because a lot of times you are covered. It's just because the agency or the institution of hospitals, unfortunately, they got a lot of stuff to deal with. And I still can't understand, why is it that I go to one hospital, but I end up getting 5 or 6 different bills? They have to figure that stuff out, not us. We should not have to figure that stuff out. They should put it all on one, make sure that it is itemized so that we, the consumer, can understand it. But there should not be a bill coming from here, another bill coming from there, another bill coming from there, another bill coming from there. This is what I said about, again, our congressional leaders. They're invested in medical billing. They're invested in these entities. And anytime you're invested in these entities, you're not going to write policies or laws that are going to harm your bottom line, but you'll definitely write them so that they harm the consumer. All right. Even after the unpaid medical debt is added to your credit report, it may not factor as heavily into the overall credit score or other accounts in collections. You got to remember that these algorithms and these situations have been designed to hurt. So it is going to have some type of an impact. However, be sure you fully understand what constitutes medical debt in the eyes of a credit agency. Medical bills only become medical debt if the unpaid money is owed to a provider such as a doctor, hospital, or a lab. And that's, again, what bothers me. Why am I getting charged for the doctor who works in the hospital, and then I'm getting also a lab, MRI, X-ray? You're getting all of this stuff, but it's only in one hospital. You mean to tell me that the hospital could not figure out how to put it all into one? because they want to keep you at a disadvantage. All right. If you paid your medical expense using a credit card, it is now viewed by the credit agency as medical debt. It becomes part of the credit card debt. All right. Paying off your debt that has already been sent to a collection agency will help improve your credit score. However, payment at this point will not remove collection actions from your credit profile. Yes, it will. Okay. I like to be able to correct individuals. That's why I go and I look at their stuff, put it all into a nice PowerPoint presentation so I can give you accurate information, because a lot of these places, all they're trying to do is, again, dupe the consumer. Dupe us. Take us for a ride. However, payment at that point will not remove collections. Yes, it will. Everything is negotiable. Everything is negotiable. Everything is negotiable, because I said at the beginning, an item can stay on your credit report. You just have to know how to accurately remove it by doing your part as a consumer. Under certain conditions, the collections agency can remove the report from your credit profile. One of these conditions is known as pay for deletion letters. Oh, so wait a minute. I can't negotiate it off, but you'll take my money to get it off. Shenanigans. Again, can't negotiate it off, but you'll definitely take a paycheck to get it off. Come on now. Stop. Foolishness. All right? A pay for deletion letter is negotiation tool where the creditor or the lender agrees to remove the account from credit reports in exchange for payment for the debt, typically more than the account is owed. Of course, they want to charge you more, but by law, you don't owe anything to anyone unless you get into a new contractual relationship. By law, the individual has to disclose their actual loss. And if that loss has already been written off and they've already collected a tax liability for that loss, then they have to disclose how much they got so that you can pay the remaining amount. And if they got 99% of that money, that means there's only 1% left to pay. They don't disclose any of this information, so it's up to you to negotiate that now that you know that. All right. The strategy is best suited for smaller lenders, as most major lenders are not open to this type of negotiation. Of course not. Why? Because they've already collected. Little mom and pops may not know it. So yeah, they might come after you with a law firm because they don't know how to go about renegotiating it. All right. And is not something you should reasonably expect. You should expect every ounce of what you know. Your job is to go in there with facts about whom, what, when, where, and how. Do not, under no circumstance, agree to any law firm, any credit collections company, no one, until you have spoken with someone who is a trusted authority in this area. And once you do, then you'll probably be setting yourself up for success. I'm about 3 minutes in, and I love this fact again that we go through this information in such great detail. I want to definitely come back to this on another day. What happens if your credit score has when derogatory marks fall off? Most negative information should automatically fall off your credit report 7 years from the date of the first missed payment. Again, most. And I love the fact that they use these words that are not definitive words. All right, leaving it open for interpretation. Can you ask creditors to report paid debt? You don't necessarily need to ask them. It's all part of their equation. Positive information on your credit report can remain there indefinitely because it's great stuff. So you want positive stuff to remain there. For example, a mortgage lender may remove a mortgage that was paid and agreed 10 years after the date of the last activity. It's up to the lender to decide why would you want positive stuff removed? You only want negative stuff that, again, has not been validated off your credit report. We are about 3 minutes out, and This is one of the most important things that I think everybody should definitely hone in on. If you want a copy of this PowerPoint, please let me know. Send me an email. Bottom line, you can build healthy credit over time by making on-time payments, monitoring your credit report, keeping an eye on your credit utilization, and avoiding unnecessary credit inquiries. It takes time to build credit, but it takes even more time to recover from neglected debt payments. Adverse credit marks influence your credit score less over time, but try to avoid falling captive to your debt in the first place. Do the business, folks. Doing the business of making sure that you stay on top of your credit. Ladies and gentlemen, I always want to thank you for the opportunity of doing what I do every Tuesday. Again, our contact information is, we use Linktree because our website now is under reconstruction, but go to our Linktree, that's linktr.ee/leverage credit recovery. You can also send us an email at leveragecreditrecovery@gmail.com and send us a text if you have any questions also equally in that regards. That's 805-428-9424. As always, I want to thank you for giving. Oh, I got a question. Wow, I learned more in 5 minutes listening to you than I have known my entire life. Thank you so much for that. That is such a warm, welcoming understanding, because this is what we do. We want to make sure that you guys are fully educated, fully versed, and I look forward to seeing that consumer again in future shows. Definitely share that information, but I so appreciate that comment. Thank you, thank you, thank you. By all means, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for me to say adieu. See you later. Adios. Hasta la vista. Bis später. Until the next time, ladies and gentlemen, you all be safe, take care, and take care, man.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out.
World Financial Group offers entrepreneurs from all backgrounds the opportunity to start their own business on a level playing field. Dr. Yana Woodhouse, receiving the WCM Wall Street Pioneer Award by the United Black Wall Street of America, Inc., is one of those entrepreneurs.
I see WFG and TFA as a place where African Americans with an entrepreneurial mindset can flourish. And the bonus, we help families and serve the community